Hi, it's Jonas Johnson with evolvemybusiness.ca. I want to talk more about BJ Fogg's work on behavior change, and in this video I'm going to talk about BJ Fogg's theories on the top 10 mistakes that people make when they're trying to change behavior. I think this is an excellent way to get an overview of his theory and get a quick snapshot of some of the key things to avoid when you're helping someone change behavior.
Everyone loves top 10 lists, and I think it's great that BJ Fogg put together a top 10 list for mistakes to avoid in behavior change. They tie in extremely nicely as an overview for explaining his theory, and they are quite easy to digest and to apply to a variety of different situations. So the top 10 mistakes in behavior change according to BJ Fogg. Number one is relying on willpower for long-term change. Willpower is something that is within the individual, and it can vary from time to time. Something that previous videos have indicated based on Heidi Grant Halverson's and Carol Dweck's theories that it is something that you can develop. However, if you want to make change now and you don't want to rely on willpower, focus on the things that are within your control. Get specific, make it easy, and trigger the behavior. It's that simple. If you're going to make drastic changes, you're going to violate that it's going to be easy for someone to implement. There are going to be a lot of factors that are going to need to change. It's going to be non-routine. Perhaps it's going to be a big time commitment. There's a lot of factors that come into play the larger the change that you're trying to implement. However, if you use small baby steps, and think in terms of BJ Fogg's idea of tiny habits. This is something that makes it much easier for you to start the behavior. And once you have that success, then you can follow through on it and build on it. Environment is a key factor in shaping someone's behavior. So in terms of the ability for someone to complete the task, or the triggers that can be present to start the behavior or continue it, or to develop a motivational response. Those are things that are within the environment that someone can control. And the more that you can have an impact on that environment to initiate the behavior, then the more successful you're going to be. You can't necessarily control someone's motivation. However, you can control how the information is presented and its nature. Very little, if none at all, of BJ Fogg's theories look at trying to stop old behaviors. And he even says himself that that is an extremely complex area, and there's so many factors involved. He is focusing on the theories related to creating new ones. And, I agree with him. He's right. There are a lot of factors involved with someone doing an existing behavior. But if you can start doing a new one, what's going to happen is you can get it to the point where it can replace the negative behavior that you're doing. And by structuring or designing the process for adopting a new behavior, you can have a very effective behavior that will make it very easy for you to stop the old one and replace the new one. Replace it with a new one. motivation is a factor in BJ Fogg's theory, but again and again, he says that what you need to do is you need to reduce the focus on motivation. That's outside of your control. It can vary with time. There are so many factors that come into play if the main focus of changing someone's behavior is on motivation. It's much easier to focus on things that you have control over within your environment to make it easier for someone to complete the habit or behavior by focusing on limiting the amount of resources required and triggering the behavior so that it's as easy as possible for someone to follow through. I think there's been a lot of companies and software out there that has developed based on the sole purpose of the effectiveness of triggers. And this is not something that can be underestimated if you are going to try to develop an effective behavior change for yourself or for someone else. The trigger can be a major impact in the success or failure of whether or not someone is going to be able to follow through on it. Think in terms of a stop sign. It's a clear indicator of the action that's supposed to be used when someone does that. And the stronger you can make that, the more effective it is. Think in terms of a stop sign that's along the side of the road and it's red, it's got the word stop written on it. People understand that that's what they're supposed to do, but however, people don't necessarily heed that warning, and they might slow down, they might miss it, and they keep going. So then there is the addition of the traffic light. The traffic light is brighter, it's more noticeable, it's farther out into someone's field of view, it's not off to the side, but still, there are people that will run through lights. There's still something missing. Now, take it to the next step of a trigger that happens for you to stop at a railway crossing. There's lights flashing. There is an arm that physically comes down that prevents you from doing the incorrect behavior. But that is a trigger. Those are all triggers for you to do the behavior that you're supposed to. And the more powerful the trigger, the much more likely it is for you to do the right thing and do the behavior that you're supposed to. Something like Twitter, Facebook, they leverage triggers immensely, and they are constantly triggering you to engage with the software, with your social network. You're just literally being bombarded with triggers that encourage you to use Facebook to the extent that for some people it becomes an extreme, an addiction, because the triggers become so effective at encouraging someone to interact with the program. Just because you tell someone that they're supposed to do the behavior doesn't rely on all of the other factors that are involved. You can tell someone that they should quit smoking because it causes cancer. If that worked, everybody would have quit smoking a really long time ago. But, you can believe that the smoking will do that, will cause cancer. However, it's not enough. You need to focus on triggering the right behavior, making it as easy as possible for someone to do it, and making it specific. If you're thinking of terms of abstract goals, then more concrete behaviors, that comes into making it specific. The more specific you can make the behavior and describing it, then you will dramatically increase your success rate. So in terms of going to the gym, instead of saying, I'm going to go to the gym and get more fit, I'm going to go to the gym today at 3 o'clock. And I'm going to set my alarm to go off to remind me that I'm supposed to stop what I'm doing and get into my car and go to the gym. I can lay out my clothes and get my bag packed so that when my alarm does go off, I'm ready to go. There's very little resistance required for me to get to that next step. If you are focusing on a much longer timeline, it becomes much harder for someone to make the change. You need to focus on changing someone's behavior in the short term. But what BJ Fogg is suggesting, that if you can get someone to effectively adopt a habit a small habit in the short term, what it's going to do is it's going to grow over time, and it's going to become more of a long-term habit. So understand that if you focus on the habit and get it as effective as possible now, it will take care of itself and it will grow into something more. It will grow into a long-term habit, and that you just need to rely on someone's idea that they're going to remain consistent and they have a certain level of commitment to the habit, that it becomes routine. There becomes a lot of things that encourage someone to follow through on doing the right thing. If you make the behavior change specific, easy to implement, and trigger the behavior, it can be extremely easy for someone to start changing their behavior. And once you start changing your behavior and heading in the right direction, there are a lot of factors that just build on themselves to keep you going. One of the main mistakes is that if you make it too complicated, you are basically setting yourself up for failure. If you are going to set yourself a goal that you're going to go to the gym and work out for 2 hours, you just didn't magically have 2 hours of your day where you were absolutely doing nothing. I can almost guarantee that something else was going on, and you need to chunk in those 2 hours plus getting to the gym and coming back. You have to push away and stop doing all those old behaviors that were in that chunk of time. It starts becoming extremely difficult. You're not just starting new behaviors, you're trying to stop all of these old behaviors that were in that same time slot. It becomes extremely complicated. You're really setting yourself up for failure. So when you're thinking in terms of what you need to do, you need to make the change specific and as simple as possible for you to start the behavior, and build as many triggers in as possible. And if you can, use devices to encourage someone to change their behavior. You will have a dramatic increase in your success rate.